and welcome to another episode of Real Talk. My name is Bryce Mitchell. I am the Sales and Marketing Assistant here at Pilbara Real Estate, and I'm joined with my experienced co-host and the Director of Pilbara Real Estate, Rob Slater. Say hello to the people, Rob.
Hello.
Here on Real Talk, we love a bit of fun, and we cover how the market has changed each month. We talk about some real estate news, and we aim to educate you in all areas of the industry, from sales to leasing and from residential to commercial. We'd also like to start taking some of your suggestions and responding to some of your comments. So feel free to leave any questions or comments below on the video here, or email me via the email on screen now, which is ea@pre.com.au. Now, before we
Click subscribe.
Oh,
Click subscribe.
how could I forget?
All I do, I've mainly watched a lot of YouTube stuff, YBS, and a lot of wonderful stuff like that, especially with my kids. And every YouTube channel. Before you start, click this.
Yeah, I forgot to say that. So do subscribe. It'll make us very happy.
If you want.
If you want.
If not, that's fine.
Before we do get into this month in real estate, I'll just say we've got a very special interview with one of our biggest fans.
And biggest critic.
At the end of this episode, so we'll cover that a little bit later, so do make sure you stick around for that one. Without further ado, let's jump to this month in real estate. Here we like to talk about what happened this month in the world of real estate, with a few prepared topics that myself and Rob have talked about over the past month. Firstly, let's go to Rob. How's the sales market changed this month?
Look, we're still continuing where we were last month. There's a lot of sales. Some properties are getting multiple offers, some are not. Different brackets of the market are moving. The highest sale was 1.25. That was a property in Baynton. That was a company that bought that, and also what we're starting to find is a lot of companies are really starting to focus on buying stuff because there's no accommodation. Rentals, the rentals are pretty tight, but you still got to be realistic with price, because you look on the market and some of the stuff that you see that people are trying to get $1,100 a week, it's still there a month later. And then what you'll find is the next 2 or 3 weeks, maybe they might get $950. So you still got to be realistic with price. So I think it just depends on what advice you're getting. It needs to be justified. That's the way I see it.
Is this being reflected in the commercial market?
Commercial, there's not much for sale, not much for lease. I've got a few tenants that are looking for properties, and hopefully we do 2 deals this week. So that's really jumped as well. And the budgets we're dealing with are quite big. There was we did a lease on Exploration Drive, and it was $45,000 a month plus GST plus outgoing. So it's more than $500,000 a year, plus your outgoing. So there's some big deals going on, which is really good litmus paper test of where the local economy is going. So despite all these tariffs and these doom and glooms, I think the Pilbara is quite isolated from a lot of this. The rest of Australia, and it's based on export. So
I was chatting with. I was down in Bunbury for the Easter weekend. I was chatting with some relatives, and I haven't really been doing much looking into the southwest market. Houses they're saying would have been going for $650, $700 then a year ago, are now going for $950, $1 million plus. Like, we're seeing big changes down there, but they're not necessarily. Are they necessarily reflected here?
No. Our growth pattern is very different. We've been growing since 2017. They turned on at the end of 2020, but they've had a lot more exponential growth.
Well, let's jump to our first story. I wanted to chat again on stamp duty. So we actually had a few changes recently by the WA government. Previously, if you were to buy a house for $500,000 as a first home buyer, you had to pay $7,505 in stamp duty, or if you weren't a first home buyer, $17,700. Now, the government has increased the stamp duty exemption for first home buyers from $450,000 to $500,000, meaning you would pay zero stamp duty for a $500,000 house, which I think is quite awesome as we're seeing prices increase and things. As well, the concession threshold has also increased from 600 to 700,000 in the Perth and Peel area and 750 outside of that, which means that first home buyers can pay reduced stamp duty on homes up to $750,000 in Karratha. I think it's a necessary change.
Look, it's a step in the right direction. Hopefully some further steps continue. You see a lot of these changes leading up to elections. You know, there hasn't been much change in stamp duty for quite some time, but just given the political landscape and the economy and just a lot of pressures on housing, this has become quite a focal point, and that's why you're seeing it now. But so if you haven't been in real estate for that long, this is what's happening now is nothing new. This is what happens.
As well, I wanted to touch on, I went to a council meeting last night. That was good. I enjoyed it. I think...
I wish I was there. I was doing an assignment.
Yeah, there wasn't too much that was relevant to our industry in that particular meeting, but in the last meeting they had stuff on the Wildwood developments, further developments in Bulgara with the 116 apartments. Look, I think it was really cool, and I think that if you're in Karratha and you're a resident here, you should definitely try and go along to one, because I learn a lot personally, and I think it's good that we know a bit about our community and our local area.
Yeah, look, as a ratepayer, you know, that's your opportunity to come in and have a talk, you know, rather than just have a vent on Facebook or vent to people. That the councillors, they are working for the people. So there is an opportunity. You know, it's like when I send emails to politicians, they have to respond. Drop the beer tax, 20%, please. I sent one to Peter Dutton on that. I gave him a 10-point plan of what he should do. I haven't heard back from him. And I sent one to Jacinta Price, Nampagina Price, and because I've got a lot of respect for her. I haven't heard back from her either. But
you'll have to keep us updated.
Maybe I should have. I'm a bit late, probably in the campaign.
He might be a bit busy now.
If I did it earlier, it might have been an earlier adopter.
Moving on to Hot on the Spot. Now, in this segment, I usually have 3 questions that I ask Rob that he doesn't know about. However, we're going to flip it today, as Rob came to me saying that he wanted to ask 3 questions, or just some questions that I haven't seen.
Well, we did that because there's a lot more people following Bryce, so I think he really is the star of the show, and we will get to that. Speaking of star of the show, Bryce is a celebrity. Bryce is an actor, and he's been in a few films, and he is a bit of a thespian.
I wouldn't call myself a celebrity, personally.
So,
shout out to my 500 Instagram followers. You guys are loyal.
What was the biggest blockbuster that you've starred in?
I haven't starred in anything.
Okay,
just been in is what you mean. Well, I was in a film called Before Dawn. It's a World War I film. It was a really amazing experience. It was filmed in Esperance. The team made these 1-to-1 replicas of the World War I trenches. So we were, in mud every single day, up to your knees. I loved it. It was awesome. We used guns that had been decommissioned from World War I, World War II. Some of them had markings on them from Vietnam. It was really cool. It was an amazing filming experience.
So what's it called again?
Before Dawn. It's actually on Netflix.
Netflix, Before Dawn.
If you have a look on the main poster for it, I'm actually, one of the main posters, I'm actually in the background of that. See if you can spot me. I'll put an image of me on screen in one of the parts, but I'm pretty much the only guy who wears a cap the entire time.
Okay.
I play a Lance Corporal.
Would we put this out there because, maybe you could be a Hollywood star, so if anyone wants to get some pre-autographed Bryce Mitchell and frames and on the hope that he becomes a Hollywood star, you're welcome to come into the office, get a Bryce Mitchell autograph, a couple of Mentos, give us a like.
That would be awesome. No, honestly, come get your autographs early. If it's Hollywood star or #1 sales rep, I don't mind. But
Okay, the second one is, Bryce was 12 months ago. Bryce was finishing off year 12. So, how has your perspective of real estate? How is it now? than what it was 12 months ago. How did you view real estate 12 months ago? A bunch of sleazy people trying to rip people off, or what was your view 12 months ago and what's your view now?
Well, my mum, who's Naomi Mitchell, she's part of the sales team. She has been in real estate for a very, very long time. So I've had an okay understanding, but it's definitely not as stressful as what I thought. And I enjoy it a lot more than I thought. 12 months ago, I did not think I would be here. 12 months ago, I thought I would be in Perth, being at the WA Academy of Performing Arts, but that sort of changed for me, and I don't regret being here at all. I think real estate's been really good to me. It's been a really fun ride. I mean, I haven't even been here for that long, but it's been awesome.
Okay, well, the final question is, what's the worst job you've done in your career and got paid for?
For acting or for just for anything?
Just, digging out fat vats in KFC or, what is the worst job you've done? Really?
It's all been good. I mean, I worked at Macca's for about a year and a half.
Do you still go to Macca's now?
Try not to as much. Now that I'm in an office job, I sit down for a lot of the day, so try and cut that out. But Macca's was always good. Worked at Kaiphone for a bit, the local phone repair store. That was always good. Shout out to Kai and the team.
Kai's a good guy, actually. I've got a lot of time for him.
Yeah.
Not just because I sold him a house, but...
Worst job, I did a lot of unpaid labour for my dad. Built a fence with him.
He's a hard taskmaster, isn't
he? Yeah.
Yeah, and his attention to detail is pretty, yeah.
I'll have to show you the fence. There's probably some photos on realestate.com of the house. But yeah, probably that. Just unpaid labour with my dad. Everything else has been good. I've got nothing to complain about. Yeah.
No, that's good.
So we'll move to our new segment, which is Getting Real.
Coming to you live from our studio in Karantha, this is Getting Real. Real talk, real people, real facts.
This is our new guest segment where we will get the real facts from Karratha industry experts, friends of the show, and Pilbara real estate employees. Earlier this month, actually last week, myself and Rob met with a man who has quickly become our #1 fan, Kim Janey from Timmick. We had a chat about the development in the Karratha area and got some great insight from a local developer. Let's roll the clip. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and Timmick as a company?
Yeah, I'm one of the directors. Timmick started in Karratha in 2007 as a residential house builder. We do commercial work as well, and a little bit of work on the resource companies, and effectively only building Karratha.
As a developer in the Pilbara, how do you manage the process of hiring for projects as well as sourcing the materials?
The materials aren't a problem. There's plenty of materials around. They just come from Perth. Labour is getting difficult. Effectively, we're bringing bricklayers out of Perth, wood framing teams from Broome. There's realistically a lack of residential trades in town in relation to roofing, wall framing, and bricks.
Yeah, we were actually chatting with Tim recently. He's also from Timmick, and he was sort of saying that you guys were struggling a lot to find accommodation, and it's just becoming increasingly more expensive.
Well, you've got the difficulty with the camps. They just sign up with the resource companies and lock you out, effectively, which is what's starting to occur.
When did that last happen? When the resource companies took all the accommodation?
That was realistically occurred back in the boom, back in 2008 to 2012. And then after the boom, then the companies started to come to us and say, can we give you rooms? So, but these places are businesses, so they've got to lock a long-term contract in. That's what they do.
As well, does having to bring everything up from Perth or having to bring labour from other parts of WA or around Australia become a deterrent for developers? And I'm assuming it would increase cost?
Yeah, that's the problem at the moment. You've got people that we get a number of inquiries each week to build houses, but the cost to build is becoming a deterrent, and that's captured by the fact that you're in Region D for cyclone, which is the worst in Australia, worse than anywhere else, worse than Broome. You've got the labour and you've got the freight.
So who's building? Are they just people with a lot of cash?
What we're seeing at the moment, or have seen, is you've got the second generation Karratha people building. So some of those people would have been last time they would have been in high school. You had a number of people that maybe came up in 2015 to 2018 to work. They've built houses because they've sold what they had and made some money, and built. And maybe in the last 3 weeks, you're starting to see the investors turn up again. We haven't seen an investor we haven't seen an investor since the boom, but now you're starting to see investors again.
I live in Nickel West, and there's actually a lot of Timmick homes being built in my area. One's actually across the road from us at the moment. It's really respectful, really nice. Tend to keep the site pretty clean. But I just wanted to ask, can you let us know what those homes are being built for in Nickel West?
Yeah, that's for one of the resource companies building in town, constructing at the moment. We've got 60 odd houses to build for those guys across a couple of years. But, the other issue is land. There's not a lot of land either at the moment.
So because you guys are building in Nickel, but then it just, I suppose the only other real spot would be Madigan to build.
Madigan's getting extended at the moment. Then you've got Malataga. Land is reasonably cheap in Karratha compared to even what it is in Perth. Right? If you want to go and buy a block, a lot of blocks are around 150 to 200. But when you add on a house build, you need $1 million.
Yeah, that's the big problem. It's not the initial purchasing of the land, it's actually then building the house.
It's the whole package that if you want a nice 4x2 on a reasonable sized block, you've kind of got a budget 950 to $1 million. And at the moment, as you guys know, you can probably buy the same thing on the market for 850, but it'll be 10 or 12 years old.
A lot of people will definitely be weighing that option. Do I then spend that extra money on building my own home because it's the Australian dream, or do I just buy something that's there now and ready?
The houses you're building now, the 60 over the next few years, that's very similar to when you guys were doing it for Yarra in 2017? Yeah, so it's not really going to affect the market. It's not going to add any supply at all, is it?
It adds supply for those companies' employees. If they're employed from outside Karratha, then they need housing. If they're employing people from in Karratha, they kind of move someone from one house into one of their houses, and you gain a house in the market.
So I originally got in contact and met him after the release of episode 2. Now, you text Rob to let us know that some of the information we had was wrong regarding the Wildgoo developments. Now, can you let us know, what was it that changed?
Well, the document you were reading off City of Karratha site was from, 2020, 2021, which had build costs at 65 million. The reason it's been put on hold is because over time that's increased to over 100 million is the problem. Yeah, the problem is developers, if it is developers, private developers, they want a return. And they're going to they'll want 10% return in Karratha because they can get 3 to 6 down here with a bigger market. So it's going to be problematic if developers can't get a reasonable return. Those sorts of things, the government, Woodside, Rio, all need to throw coin in and just get on and build it.
Yeah, the information I got was, unfortunately, it was relevant to when we were filming, which was March 24th, I believe it was. And then it was literally that day or the day after when things changed. Now, the big thing that did change, now I did actually have a bit of a look into this. The City of Karratha did up a Wildgoo feasibility report. Now, in there, I've got a quote. To date, the city has contributed approximately $1.9 million towards design, costing, and feasibility, which is pretty insane. It's unfortunate that I got cancelled, but I think the more unfortunate part is the City of Karratha did spend $1.9 million and now it's going nowhere.
You've still got the design sitting there, so but at the end of the day, that's like any developer. They have to put money up to see whether a project's going to get somewhere. At the end of the day. So, if you can't get private developers, then to be fair to the city of Karratha, they've got to put their hand up and build stuff.
But that's a good point. Do you think anything like those apartments with like the retail space below will ever come to Karratha, or do you think that the city might take a different approach?
Well, it did with Bellagio, and the problem with the Wogu one is that the material crisis that occurred caught them out. But at the end of the day, maybe the government, because I mean, a lot of those apartments would have gone to the government, to resource companies, and there would have been a handful left. Just put up the coin, and some of these organisations need to stop thinking about it as being housing. Think about it as being like a valve out on your plant that they're happy to spend $1 million for. Just put it into housing and don't treat it as property, and then they might find that they might go better.
Pelago works. There was a lot of debate at the time because I think government took up 18 properties, but you've had nurses and teachers and police officers and that, and it works well. Where Pelago didn't work is the retail commercial below. They had a set rate because they're a commercial outfit. If they took a lower square metre rate, it would have devalued their product. And that's why that some of their stuff have sat vacant since 2012. And if you've ever dealt with Finbar, you'll understand that it's quite hard to deal with.
That's the problem with private developments. The developer has to make or wants to make a reasonable return, and they also want their asset to go up over time. So, therefore, the city of Karratha might as well just get on and build stuff.
Okay, so do you think the city should leave these projects to private developers and instead assist them rather than working on them alone?
I think that there needs to be a combination of both. There's no reason. I mean, you look at Lot 481 Badgermaloo, where a developer's going to build it and the city of Karratha are going to buy it. Not the worst idea. I mean, everyone whinges it's their rates, but then the city of Karratha say it doesn't come from the rates; it comes from the infrastructure fund. So, and sometimes the city of Karratha, like anything, whether they're doing a park up or doing something else, they're out getting funds from everywhere else. And at the end of the day, if we want more affordable accommodation, then the city of Karratha has to do something.
Yeah, I think mining towns are just different as a whole. It's you look at a place like Kalgoorlie, I'm assuming it would be pretty similar. All these other places would be pretty similar. I think if anyone's interested, they should check out the City of Karratha's budget. They put it all up online, and I think a lot of people are sort of going around with this idea. Those people who are saying, it's coming out of the ratepayers' money, it's coming out of our money. Take a look at the budget, and actually, because they put it all out there for everyone to have a look at.
Yeah, I think everyone just assumes that the money the city of Karratha spends is just the ratepayers' money that they've collected from rates, and it's not always like that. So I'm a fan. They bought the quarter. I'm sure the quarter's doing all right.
Like they talk about in their budgets how that does help the rates and how it steadies it. I suppose if they did come along with another set of apartments, it would do the same. But yeah.
The city of Karratha has the same problem as any business. They have to employ people and pay them whatever. And they also have to find accommodation for their staff in town. So they're not immune to the problems that everyone else has as a business. At the end of the day, they're exactly the same. So they want cheap accommodation because then maybe they're not spending rates. They've got to build stuff for their staff, so they're the same as every other business in town.
Yeah.
And we want them to provide services, don't we? So for them to provide services, something has to happen.
Before we go, I just wanted to ask, is there any major projects that you could give us any insight into, some upcoming projects? Is there anything that you're excited to see what the City of Karratha does with?
I mean, Karratha's just always had that problem where there's always lots of projects in the pipeline. But over years, not many projects have actually got anywhere. Perdaman, obviously up and running back in the day with the other fertiliser plant up and running, Woodside doing Pluto, Rio doing any sort of upgrades, but there hasn't been a lot of other projects that have managed to actually get anywhere. I mean, you had the jetty, the BCI jetty never got anywhere, and that's always been that problem. So it's a bit of a catch-22 as well, because those projects, if it's solar farms or whatever, don't get up, then there's no point developing land for houses that aren't required. So it's quite a tricky process at the end of the day. And once again, there is no land available in Karratha again.
Yeah, I think that was all I had to ask. Is there anything you want to say?
Yeah, look, you guys, you started during the first boom or construction phase, and you guys are the last ones. You're still here. Builders have come in and left, and come in again and left, and you guys are still here. So you've got to be doing something right. What do you reckon that is? Personality?
I think part of the issue was back in the boom, you had Perth companies turning up, Dale Alcott with TR Homes, BGC. You had Pindam with their fold-out Formus, Chinese imported stuff. But all these were Perth-based companies as well. So if they couldn't see any other work there, they just pack up and come home, which is effectively what most of them had done. There was a few small builders that had come over from the east that did a few for themselves. But the same thing, if you can't get... So during the downturn, we went and did work for the city of Karratha. We worked for the government. We did a lot of work for Yarra out on their side. So we built, in 6 years, we didn't build any houses. We had to go and find other work. It's very difficult to make any money out of just building houses in Karratha. It's not a very lucrative business building houses. If you can only build 3 or 4 a year, you can't make any money. You need to be building minimum 20 houses a year, just housing, to actually make money as a business. It's extremely difficult.
I didn't realize it'd be 20. I suppose that does put it into a bit of perspective, how much work you guys are doing and how valuable things like that Perdaman stuff is.
You've got to understand, when the grants came out just after COVID, and Land Corp or Development WA dropped the land a few dollars, we ended up only building from 2020 up until late last year. We only probably built 10 or 12 houses in that time. There wasn't, even after the grants, there was a few builders, all probably had somewhere between 12 and 20 over that time. Last year, we did not pour a slab for a private client.
That's crazy. I think...
We finished houses, but we didn't pour any new houses in 2024.
Because didn't the Shire in 2011, 2010 have a mandate to build like 700 or 800 homes per year? Was that their vision?
Look, there was a lot of houses built back in the day, in the boom. I mean, there was a potentially, when we started in 2007, sort of late 2007, 8 and 9, there was 27 builders in town building houses. Right? That's from transportable shit that turned up to everything. There was 27 of us.
Yeah, okay.
So now there's like 3 of us, if that.
I don't know who the other 2 are.
Yeah, we don't know. We only know you guys. So.
I'm not interested.
I think it's going to be really interesting what occurs late this year and next year. I mean, you guys see it. You see the rents are fast heading to $2,000 a week, which is kind of back in the boom time rents. I think it's going to be extremely difficult unless the city of Karratha, the resource companies and the government throw some coin in and just build stuff and not worry about the return on it.
Yeah.
If they continue to worry about what the return is, or is it going to get some capital growth out of it, it's going to be problematic. But then the other problem you start to have is if companies and governments start to build cheaper accommodation, and then everyone else is whinging their houses are going down. I mean, you've still got a plethora of people that are still struggling from the prices that they bought places back in the boom. Over $1 million houses were, and they dropped down to 500,000-600,000, and they're still not back up to what people bought them for. So it's been pretty brutal in the last 17 years in Karratha.
That's pretty much all I wanted to ask you. Thanks for coming on. I think you've quickly become our #1 fan, Kim.
And #1 critic. #1 critic. Are you going to criticise this podcast? You criticise yourself?
This one was the best one you've done.
We'd love to have you on again. Thanks for the chat. It's been great.
And and good on you for being the last builder standing, mate.
Yeah.
That should be your new tagline.
It was really good to chat with Kim. We got a bit of an insight into a different perspective.
He's a good guy. He's actually super smart and super cool. And what I'm thinking about doing is getting a phone in here, so when we start recording, he can look live and call us and give us some tips. You know, like with
We're becoming more and more like the
footy show.
yeah.
The footy show. Any guy. So we should get the Kim hotline. But let's see what his feedback is.
Yeah. I did definitely want to mention something just post-interview. At a recent KDCCI event, someone said to me, I won't name them because I haven't asked, but someone said to me that if the city aren't going to do these developments, who is? The state government isn't doing enough for Karratha and the Pilbara in terms of development and building housing, so the city is the one driving it. I think it does suck that a lot of money was spent on the Wildgo developments, but I do side with the city of Karratha in cancelling it, because at the end of the day, it wasn't their fault that the costs skyrocketed. I do hope that the city can help developers like Kim create more housing in any way they can. But I personally side with the city of Karratha, and I really can't wait to see what else they've got coming up. I hope the city of Karratha can work with developers like Kim, like I said before, and I hope they can really work together to build some stuff. I will say, the rumour about them spending $300,000 on a name, I don't know how true that is. If you actually have a look at the Wildgo feasibility report, which I'll attach a link to below, I can't find any information that says they spent $300,000. But honestly, I don't think we should try and give them too much of a hard time, because at least they tried.
They did try. Like, I used to work for Blackburn. We used to sell apartments all the time off the plan and that. And a lot of these developers and that would just generate a name fairly quickly, like Sky, Panorama. There's one in that I bought in years ago called Times 2, because they had 2 towers. So
That's good.
that was a Finbar one, but something like this, Karratha Heights, it's just
Yeah.
it just needs to be simple.
One thing it does actually show, which I actually thought was quite cool, it showed the breakdown of tenants. We had people like the Department of Communities going to be in there, WA Police, Department of Education, WA Country Health, Water Corp, and there were 22 unallocated apartments, as well as 60 that were potential pre-commitments.
And that's very important for developers. Like when, like a lot of off the plan that I've been involved with, that developers need to have a certain amount of pre-sales to actually get the funding. So when Pelago was happening, the state government bought 17 apartments. There was uproar about that, but if they didn't do it, Pelago might not have happened. And people got to understand that. There's a lot of teachers, nurses, pharmacists. There's a lot of good support workers in that provide value to the town. So 17 apartments, that's easy.
Yeah. We'd like to say thank you everyone for watching. If you are new here, please subscribe to us here on YouTube. Follow us on all the platforms on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the links are below. Please comment any questions you have on here, Facebook or Instagram, or do email me at ea@pre.com.au, or the email that's on screen. And yeah, you might be featured in the next episode. Without further ado, thanks for a real talk, Rob.
Thank you.